Hey there, everyone. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Krista Gurka, and I have a guest episode today. I love guest episodes because it's not just me staring at the camera, like being weird, talking to myself. So I have Mindy Lundy Kramer, who's the founder and CEO of 20 Degrees Media. And we met. This is why I love the power of podcasting, because I'm a podcast junkie. And we met because I heard Mindy on Danielle Hayden's podcast. And Danielle is the founder of Kickstart Accounting Inc., who's our money team in my coaching program. And then I reached out and I was like, oh, she sounds like she could be very valuable to what the people are looking for that I coach and mentor in boutique fitness and wellness. And so we jumped on a call and then we did some website audits. We could talk a little bit about that. But then I liked her so much. I was like, I need to have you on the podcast because I think the way that you we're speaking specifically about what we're going to talk about today, which is Instagram best practices, is very specific for like local brick and mortar businesses, right? And I think that people need to understand there is a big difference between online marketing, if you have an online business, and brick and mortar. So the principles are roughly the same, but it's just different, the traffic and all of this stuff. And I think there's so much information out there about online marketing, but they're targeting online businesses. And sometimes for brick and mortar businesses, they're like, well, I'm not seeing that return. And I'm like, because you have to have a little bit of a different strategy. So Mindy, I'm going to read your bio here because I thought this
All
was
right.
pretty cool. I was like,
Okay.
worked for Vail Resorts. That's pretty amazing. So she worked for Vail Resorts as the marketing research department. And then she went on to intern in the photography department. And so then you went on to be a photographer.
Yeah.
Amazing. For
Yeah.
many, many, many years. And then you moved to California, but then you came back to Colorado. And so, why don't you give our audience a little more information about who you are, what you do, and what 20 Degrees Media is all about?
All right. So who I am is, like you mentioned, my what I graduated school in is photography. So my internship was with Vail. I stayed with them and have worked in the commercial realm of photography in the outdoor industry, which has been really fun. And then we moved to California, which was kind of a game changer because before we left, I had enough business. And I mean, people say you can never have enough business, but since it was my name, I would often try and say, I have another photographer, and they'd be like, no, I want you. So when it's a you
Mhm.
business, there is something as like I could only have so much business. But I worked for 7 sports companies and then also in the commercial realm and photographed 125 weddings. So it was this combination of my outdoor brides telling their stories and then working in the sports world. And it was really fun. But then we moved to California and something happened. I went from being not having to advertise, not having to update my website because I mean like I didn't foresee us moving. Like that wasn't on my radar. I never thought that would happen. And we went for my husband's work and I left this environment of having all these referrals and all this history of work to a new place and showing up at a bride show. And I was so sad because I hadn't done blogs, I hadn't done Instagram, I had nothing. So it really looked as if I was brand new to the market, just saying I'd photographed all these different things. So I would say in California is really when I learned why it was so important because we never know the shift that's going to come in our lives. Like
Mhm.
that was something I didn't foresee. And then as a kid that had allergies in 8th grade is when they started navigating that and severe allergies to where I couldn't be outside during certain seasons. That really developed tenfold. And I was basically asked by all the specialists to move back to Colorado because I'd had all the steroids you could have in 3 weeks that you could have in a year. And they couldn't stop the progression. And my body was just being encased by hives. So I would say my journey and who we work with, our clients, is because I know that world very well, eating, physical activity, being very mindful of wellness and that journey. So really 20 degrees kind of evolved from moving back to California, I couldn't be outside for a year. And I thought, okay, now what? Everything I know here is the outside. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I really went back to my marketing roots, found a company in Denver who needed help in an industry I didn't actually know, grew them during COVID, and a lot of it was by connecting and really learning to use the power of Instagram because they were brick and mortar to really touch base with their audience. Now, they've been in business for 13 years, so they had a big business base, but they hadn't really grown their Instagram or present like their Instagram followers by that much. Like there was engagement, but we had crazy engagement once I tapped into like the power of community. And I think realizing the power of a community of a business and also just like not being afraid to fail in some senses where I was like, I don't know that that one was great. And looking back and looking at the data saying, okay, what is this telling me? And then also asking
Yeah.
people what they need to shift. Well, they grew enough to where during COVID, if you had a business that was growing, it was a great time to sell. They sold. And then I ended up starting my own marketing company because I was like, why can't I help other businesses see this power that they have? They just might not know how to use that power, because there's
Yeah.
people and they want to talk and they want to connect, but sometimes it's just not coming across the right way. So basically, we do mostly work with the outdoor wellness, and I say what you wear, what you eat, what you do. People that are physically active, I find that that's kind of our language because most of my team knows that.
Yeah. And I think that, most people that are listening to this podcast in boutique fitness, wellness, right?
Yeah,
I would say the majority of us, I'm not going to say everybody, but the
yeah,
majority of us don't have business degrees. Like we started the business because we're the technicians. Like if you're a photographer and you start a photography business, right? We were the
yeah.
physical therapist or the Pilates instructor. And so many people then, like I just had an email from someone this morning. She was like, I never realized she bought the business from someone. And she was like, I never realized how much goes into running a business that
True.
nobody tells you about, right? That you
Yeah,
just don't see from the outside. People don't really
yeah.
see it. And so then you're right. Most of us, it's very similar to you. So most of us, we have you ever read the book The E-Myth
Oh,
Revisited?
I think I have that one. I have a
It's
pile
so
of
great.
books. I love
I
consuming books.
love, I mean, my whole office is filled with books, but in the
Yeah,
E-Myth, he talks specifically about like a technician. The person is a baker, right? She loves to bake. She's a home baker. She loves to bake her whole life. So then she decides to open a bakery, right? And then she's
yeah.
like, holy crap, I don't just have to bake. Like now I have all this other stuff. And so most of us, like you said, we're great. And so people love us. So the beginning of the business seems to be super easy because we got all these people coming to us because we built this reputation. And then all of a sudden you're like, bam. I think it's Muhammad Ali maybe said like everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And then people are like, oh, well, I have to start marketing. But there's such a
Yeah.
flood of information out there in
Oh,
terms of
so much.
marketing. Yeah. So will you give, since this is your expertise, will you give the audience an idea of like what is marketing
Mhm.
in terms of how you define marketing and then
Yeah.
how you can as small business owners with brick and mortar businesses, what are things specifically, and I know we're going to talk about Instagram, that we can benefit from as like small brick and mortar business owners? So first talk about like
Yeah.
what to you is marketing.
To me, marketing is really looking at a company and looking at their goals. Like, what specific goals do you have? It's also looking for me, and I guess coming from like looking at health wellness, I would say. And for me personally, when I look at websites, it's like, like you said, you're trying to do like you're trying to do your thing, right? But there's people looking for those answers. And I'll go back to my health journey is like, why did I have to spend 1,000 hours to find you? Because when people are suffering with whatever health thing or strengthening, whatever that looks like, there is someone looking. It's just that and I have to give myself grace sometimes too. Like our Instagram is not exactly where I want it to be, but we have some other things we're working on, but we have a plan, right? I know
Right.
that's coming. We just have other things. So I think for one, give yourself some breathing room because I know you can't do it all. We can't do it all. It takes a minute. But when I think about marketing, I'm thinking, are you reaching the people that are looking for you? Because if that answer is no, then you do need to do some type of marketing. Does that mean Instagram? Does that mean that you're local to your area and you need to partake in chamber events or markets or host something where people can find you? It's all relative. Are you local? Are you global? Where is that reach trying to go to? I do think Instagram is a powerful tool for small businesses, and I'll tell you why is that working for that company, there's like if you have a website, we don't always get to update that all the time. I mean, quite honestly, businesses set it up and they're like, I'm done. That was a process. I'm out. And then it doesn't get updated. But we have Instagram, which is really digestible content. And as business owners, we're doing things. Like our business is doing things. And to just share tips, but then add that Instagram at the bottom of your website instantly just keeps you relevant. It shows that you're working on things, you're doing things. Not only that, but I find small businesses who can collaborate with like-minded businesses, whether that's, hey, we're going to have a yoga pop-up in front of a smoothie shop because they're right next to a park, and then there's also athletic gear that we're going to partner with to get a discount. Whatever, if you're doing an event that has that synergy that
Mhm.
all three of you are in a like-minded space, to be able to use Instagram where you can put together a one graphic on Canva's free, but at least have all of your pictures, all of your logos on that one graphic and then post it. And then maybe next time you post all three of the faces of the owners or instructors that are going to be there, or a smoothie from that shop. But if you can cross share and make that branded, being able to tag another business gives that other business so much visibility because someone in that space that already likes yoga is going to be looking for something
Right.
healthy to eat and something, we all look, or at least I look for cool athletic wear to wear. And so I think that's kind of just the power I see with Instagram is that some businesses don't even have websites. They just do Instagram,
Mhm.
which is good and bad. Starting, it's fine. If your business gets hacked on Instagram, that's the only place you are, then that's bad. So that's, long term, not a great plan. But I also just think the power of marketing, being able to connect together, is what gives you a stronger community.
Yeah. And I mean, my nail salon is only on Instagram, and I'm
Yeah.
always like, what if Instagram gets hacked? Like but she doesn't have to, she doesn't have to pay for a website. And granted, her clientele is that age, right? So for some of us, like our clientele is not that age. So, but I agree, like we don't own Instagram. And if they go away tomorrow, we're in trouble. So one
Yes.
of the things I see as a mistake, and I did this for a long time, is not having a full strategy when it comes to marketing. So can you speak a little bit about that, about how it's important, and or unless maybe you don't believe that, I'm going to assume that you do believe that, but
Yes.
how it's important that your website and your Instagram and your email marketing, which are all websites marketing, social
Yep.
media is marketing, email
Yes.
is marketing, merch is marketing, doing a community event is marketing, right? So
Yes.
how do you help businesses understand that this is like a strategy? Because what I see people doing is like, oh, I did this thing on Instagram, it didn't work,
Yeah.
right? But I just don't think, I'm like, well, what was the point? What were your
Mhm.
goals, number one?
Yes.
Right. And then what was the journey supposed to be? Like, what was the ultimate thing? So
Yeah.
when you're helping people put together marketing strategies, do you look in terms of that, of like everything should be kind of cohesively moving in the same direction?
I do. Sometimes when it comes to businesses, time and resources, sometimes those are a journey in itself. Like maybe
Correct.
someone has all the money and can do everything at once. And sometimes we have to build one platform and start to build another because there's just time is a real thing.
Yeah.
And
And money is a real thing, right?
money's a
And
real
if
thing.
there's holes
Absolutely.
in the bucket, like, build your Instagram, right? Or build your
Yep.
email first and then start to add something else on, right?
Yeah,
That's
I
what
always
you're
think
saying. Yeah.
like email list first straight off from your website. Second, I would say get on some social platform if you're going to be community based, because as a marketing person for a company, when I went to work for that company in Denver, my first thing was, okay, what events do we have? Who are those vendors coming in? And you want to be able to have a way to tag them so that people can see them, because you can't tag, you can't the nice thing about Instagram is you could tag 4 vendors in one post and it will send them everywhere. So that
Yeah.
is kind of a beautiful thing about Instagram. Second, I would ask, I would really build on goals. What are we trying to hit first and why? And what does that look like? What's the tone of voice? Are we funny? Are we, and build a platform based around that. I would say for us right now, probably one of the biggest things to do with any marketing is to look back. One, if you're using it for a purpose that you've defined, looking back, is what you're doing resonating or is
Mhm.
it falling flat? The best way to do it, and I think when I hear people say it didn't work for me, is that like one, as you mentioned, they didn't have a plan. Two, they never looked at the data. Like, did they post something that skyrocketed and they just were like, I don't know. There
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
something there that they could have gained traction on. So I'll give an example for us. This last year, we've just been posting as we were building our courses and workshops. And I said, listen, I know it's not going to be the prettiest grid. I know it's not going to be everything, but we can still share tips and like not drop that algorithm, because Instagram, if you're a come and go, leave and go person, it's not really going to benefit you because your algorithm's just going to go everywhere and it essentially doesn't pay attention to you. And we tried this with 20 degrees. Let's say we just kind of dropped it and then picked it up to see, but it's taken longer, I would say, to get that ramp back up. Where now we're going to start to infuse. But we looked back on the post from last year saying, okay, what did no one respond to? What did people like? And then let's give more of those tips. And turns
Mhm.
out for some more of the speaking tips or kind of pro tips or photography tips that we gave, people really liked that, which in turn we're doing a YouTube channel, because that's just like, let's give you a little more of what you ask for, but then we can also repurpose that on Instagram and Facebook.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's get into Instagram best practices. And when you
Yes.
say Instagram, are you talking like Instagram and Facebook? Because you can post to both. Or are you really just saying like Instagram?
I say it depends on your target market.
Okay.
I do
Makes sense.
Instagram and Facebook only because I do have an older group that follow me and they are just on Facebook. So
Yeah.
you really have to be aware of who you're gaining. And that goes back to looking at your data,
Yeah.
is being, like, who do I need to serve in this moment? Like, who are my customers? And really make sure that you're there for them. So I would say, I usually say Instagram, but we post to Instagram and Facebook at the
Yeah.
same
I
time.
mean,
We
we
usually
do
have a couple.
too. And so
Yeah.
I just assume from people when they say Instagram, they're talking Instagram
Yes.
and Facebook. But then I recognize that some people are just
Some
Instagram.
people
So
don't. Yeah.
yeah, I'm Instagram and Facebook, but I'm way more communicative on Instagram. Like I get more DMs. I just like
Yep.
double post on Facebook because I do want to have a
Yep.
presence on Facebook too. So, okay,
Yep.
so brick and
Exactly.
mortar studios, right? These people have a physical location where people are going to exercise, whether that be Pilates, yoga, bar, physical therapy, massage therapy, right? So they're service providers. What
Yes.
are some things that you would recommend to someone who has this type of business if their goal
Hmm.
is to sell? So by sell, I don't mean sell on Instagram because that's not how our services work, but get people to come to the studio to buy from them. So that's their goal. So someone can come to you and it'll be like, I need more clients and I want to use social media to do that. What are you going to talk to them about?
I'll give bar as an example because I loved bar. We don't have a place near me now, but obsessively went. Like I loved it so much. I think that you're not selling bar really, or a lot of the workout. What you're selling is transformation and a lifestyle. So that would be obviously you want to show what it's like to be in those classes because someone brand new is one, you want to make them feel comfortable. So it's just even like walking into the studio. What does it look like? Like kind of leading them through what the process it would be when they come in. I think the best thing for new clients is just show them what it looks like to be a new client. And then also show part of the classes. There was one instructor what did she always tell us? She was like, you can do it. And in your head, it seems like such a small statement, but when you're like dying, you're like, I can do it. That's
I
what's
can do
tripping
it.
off. Yeah. And so I think just showing personalities of instructors or techniques of something. I also think with a lot of people are going to work out maybe post injury is that one of the classes I really because I had a back injury skiing a couple of them was that I wanted to go to an instructor who could also modify that for me. So I think showing different instructors if there's someone that you have that specializes in a certain way they talk to the clients, like show that because not every instructor connects with every student, right? So show a variety of people there. But I think most importantly would be show your personality. Like that's what you're selling. The people that are drawn to you. I've tried other bar classes, but compared to where I went, I was like, hmm, the other place was just so it for me, like loud music. I couldn't think. I was sweating so hard, but not everyone wants that, right? So
Right.
just, I think that's what you always have to be mindful of. You could have three bar classes on the same or studios on the same block, and they are still not the same. Like they're going to cater to a different clientele.
Yeah. Lean into like what makes you as a business unique, right?
Yeah.
And different than other people,
Yeah.
then, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, okay. So are people, and you can tell me if you know if there's like a definitive answer or not,
Okay.
with Instagram now kind of being, it's definitely a crowded, much more crowded space than it was when it first started.
Yep.
So would your recommendations be to someone on there to use it as like a awareness strategy, like know, like, and trust strategy, or to legitimately try selling?
All right, I'm going to tell you this definitively because, well, just because we have literally, you can go to our Instagram right now as of, what is this, February 26th, and it's very salesy. Here's the thing, we know this, but like I said, we're just posting right now but it's not working, which is fine. We have had other things in the works to get done. Like I said, I know it's going to be changing, but it's also kind of curious. I hate to say it, but I test well, I guess I shouldn't hate to say it. I test my own local market on my own personal Instagram
Mhm.
and my Instagram to see a lot. And I'm like, let's just do it. Let's run it. Let's see what happens. Well, truth is, our minds, much like commercials, it blanks. As soon as we see something that feels like a commercial, we check out. People want to see personalities, people want to know people. So I would say use it for what was your first one you said?
Like know, like, and trust,
Yes,
awareness,
awareness.
right? Yeah.
But I think even more above awareness is being a person, being a
Mhm.
human, which is what we said all along. Like, I'm going to start doing videos, and there's certain things, I want to share like in the moment that blows my mind that I think people should know, especially with just new technology changing and all the things. But definitely it is to know, like, and trust. Can you run ads? Yes. Can you target? Yes. But people really just want a person. I
Mhm.
would say for the place I did marketing when I said I didn't know anything about it, I was not shy about being the face and saying, I don't know this. So what you want to see, you tell me, and then when COVID hit, right, there was crazy shifts happening. Kids were at home. And I just said, what are you struggling with? Like right now, what are you struggling with? It didn't have to be that we didn't have the fix. but they were struggling with kids. And guess what? We could make kids classes. Like that's not something we had, but we could do. So I think one thing that you can't be afraid of is asking.
Right.
What
Yeah.
are we missing? As a studio, we want you to come. As a new person, what do you want to know? And for someone like an instructor asking or the business owner asking, if you're asking in a, they know your intentions if you're real and raw and like, we want to help you, but we're obviously missing something. I said that so many times on the platform during COVID because the shifting was so fast, but we didn't know exactly where people were and people felt isolated. So it was like, great, how can we make this work? How can
Mhm.
we jump in and help? And I think that's half of it. People have answers. They just think that people should know, and people don't always know. Like
Yeah.
I actually think you and I talked about this. I haven't done Pilates, and I'm like, I don't know what I would do. I don't
And
know
I'm
what to
like, you'd be
wear.
fine. You'd be
Yeah,
good. Yeah. And it's
but
funny because when you said that, I was like, come to think of it, that's in our nurtures. Like when someone registers for class, they get an email that says, this is what you should wear. This is where, this is what you can expect on your first day. Cause some people, they want that, kind of people want to feel safe and they want to feel like they're not going to be stared at, really, is what it
yeah,
is. So
like she's new. We all know she'll get it together after she's been here. Yeah, no
yeah,
one wants to feel like that. It still goes
no,
back to like that new kid in class.
of course.
You don't want
It's
that.
intimidating.
It is
It's
intimidating. So
intimidating.
even like that, a reel, just a quick video of like, here's what you wear, here's what we wear, here's why,
Yep. Yeah. And so you've got this. Okay, listen, I'm gonna not necessarily sell. I'm gonna, educate, entertain. A lot of the women are just, again, they're overwhelmed and it's like one more thing they have to do. So what
Yeah.
I try to do is say, okay, let's come up with a rubric of some sort. I've been saying like I like the three E's: educate, entertain, encourage. And
Oh, I
so,
love that. That's beautiful.
yeah, I was just like, if, by educating, entertaining, encourage. And then I was like, in the fourth E, every once in a while, you can entice, which is like entice to buy. Because I agree,
Oh, for
like
sure.
I don't think we should have our thing always be selling, because you're absolutely right. It's like people tune you out, right? So
Yeah.
do you have things that you recommend in terms of what works really well in brick and mortar places? Like, do you have a rubric of some sort, or do how-tos work really well? Do tutorials work really well? Or is it dependent on the different industries?
It depended on the different industries for sure. I'm not
Okay.
saying like don't sell by far, because I'll tell you for that other place that I worked for as a marketing person, we had it would be something as we got this new product today, it's not even out because I'm like a child at Christmas. I want to open up the new shipment boxes and I would get in so much trouble. They're like, we haven't even priced it. And I'm like, it's fine, I showed it, like I'm gonna get in trouble again, but people love that little bit of excitement. It was exciting for me too. But we would most certainly sell products. It could just be like, hey, here's our classes and our courses, whatever that looks like, but sell because I could sell out things within an hour of us having a product. But
That's amazing.
you just have to be able to, I would say, connection. And honestly, it goes back to data. I wrote down three things we were going to talk about. And then I'm like, let's see, are those three things even engaging? And like one wasn't. So we're like, let's just completely nix this and let's move on to something else. I think trying until you find it, but don't be afraid to start something brand new you haven't
Mhm.
tried and try it and just give it a go. Like give it 3 months,
Yeah.
look back and see how much engagement you've had from the post, how many comments you've had from the post. Sometimes people won't always comment, but they'll like it. I have noticed they're very stealthy. Like, I don't want to be the one to say anything, but they'll engage with it. So you'll start to kind of pick up where people are talking, what they want to hear you talking about. I try and stick to like three things and just kind of rotate through. We found just from last year that people really love to see pictures or things happening in Evergreen. Like we have elk, our lake house is really beautiful. Sometimes that break in like what we're talking about, but also we're an outdoor sort of connected company. So I think just those things resoundingly with our audience is true. And I think as each business goes on, if they pay attention to what people are engaging, they're going to start to see patterns. And that's probably the most beautiful thing about looking at data.
Yeah. So let's talk about data a little bit. Sometimes these analytics are very confusing for people. They're like, I have no idea what I'm looking
Yeah.
at. So can you kind of break down the difference between engagement, reach? Obviously, likes is pretty self-explanatory and comments is pretty self-explanatory. But can you break down what we're looking at when we look at the analytics in Instagram?
Yes. So we use Later, which is a platform that we use because it can schedule our LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm a huge believer in doing it once and then it
Yeah.
gets shared 4 ways because we just have limited time. I do actually have an Instagram course that goes really in depth in that, but definitely I can touch on it. Because I take people into our back end and explain when I'm looking at our back end, what am I looking for? And you can also on Later, I'm not for sure if on Instagram, because we don't use those insights, we use the bigger platform to look at them across the board, is that I'm looking at link throughs. Because if you're promoting a class or anything, likes, like you said, comments, those are pretty easy. Impressions are rate and reach are how many times has your content been seen by just, a broader audience, or and then also it can filter out how many times, because one person can look 4 times. So there's
Right.
a couple of ways of looking at that. But also you'll start to pick up, if you pay attention, if there's a certain thing, and I will tell you, it has never changed in any company I've ever looked at, where you can go on the back end, and if it's a business owner or person in the business, but almost always business owner is going to get the highest ranking. We
Oh,
cannot get around my face. And let me tell you, I'm like,
huh.
why? There's no
Interesting.
way around it. So for business owners, they're like, I don't want to be seen. I'm like, well, you are missing a big chunk because that will soar through the roof. I mean, we tried it all the time at the other company. It didn't matter. The owners were on there, skyrocket, like 3 times the amount. It just is what it is. People want to know people.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And
That's so interesting.
people can always reach out to me because I do have people say, can you look at it and tell me what it's saying? Because data can be hard. And that's something I read all the time. Like that's one thing I was telling something the other day. If you could just, if you can teach me how to read it, like I just know the data, then I'd be like, that's a yes, no. Like that's not even,
Yeah.
I can question it. Like I know what that story's telling me when I look at it.
Yeah.
But it can be hard. So yeah.
So what would you is there something you're looking for in terms of the analytics? Like, are you wanting to see higher engagement, higher reach, more comments, more likes, more saves, more shares? Like, is there really an algorithm for, okay, if I can pick one of them, this is the one I'm going to shoot for the most?
When you ask if there is like a specific reason or strategy, I will tell you that each one has its own.
Right. Yeah.
We actually, on when we create for the strategy for the team, I have different things that I will market. This is awareness. This is
Okay.
for trust. This is for surprise and delight. And then we can go back and see, is that really hitting true? Is it the way we're talking? Is it the pictures we're showing? So we break it down very finite in the way that we do it because I don't want to waste my time. And I think that's the thing with other businesses when we look at their accounts. I don't want people to waste their time on something that's not working for them.
Right. Right. And so when you look at because I'm always I look at my insights and it's interesting because some things that have like not a lot of like or comments get a lot of saves. And then
Mhm.
sometimes so it's just interesting, like
Yeah.
some reels knock it out of the park and some of them like some of the ones I think are hilarious get like 12 views and the ones that I think are not like get like 70,000 views. I'm like, how does this it's like all over the place.
It's so funny you say that. I just was looking at one last night and I was like, why? That one's perplexing me.
Yeah, it doesn't make
You
any
will
sense to me.
you'll have anomalies, but I would ask you, like, for the ones that you posted or saved, like, what was your intention for that video?
Yeah, so some of the ones when I look in my insights and I see that a lot of people saved a post, then I'm
Yep.
like, okay, this is good information. So then usually I'm like, okay, we'll do a podcast about this information. Or, okay, I'm going to turn this
Yep.
information into a course or something to that effect, so I'll try that. If it's a lot of times things that get shared for me are quotes, which
Mhm.
again, sometimes it's like, okay, that resonated with people. I could use that in my messaging for,
100%.
so that's the way that I look at it. And
Yeah.
sometimes I look at the analytics. I'm like, I don't know what this is freaking telling me. Like, I'm like, somebody else tell me what this means. But that's the way
Well,
that I kind of look at it.
yeah, because even if your quotes are being saved, and we do some funny quotes, because I think there was one on Halloween. I don't know. But it's just like that's who we are. But
Yeah.
I think that goes back then to how we're making a shift with our face or with our website as a little bit more humor driven. Like that's just who we are, our whole team. We like to have fun, we live life. But I would say, even just from your quotes, then like I would bring some of those quotes into your website. If that's resounding online, then why not pull that in? Because that's obviously hitting something with your audience. And then also when you say you have saves, is I would highlight if you have, I don't know what that is, but a reel, maybe it's based on a class. If you had a class, then I would put that as a promotion or try it on your website to see if that's true when people come, if they're resonating with it there. So I would definitely use that information to try on your website, because there is an audience for that and there's a reason why they're doing it. And people are telling you what they want without telling you what they
Right.
want. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. You kind of have to see the story behind the story.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about hashtags
Yes.
because I mean, I think every other day I read something different. Like hashtags don't work. Hashtags do work. You can only have a certain amount of hashtags. Put them in the caption. Don't put them in the comment below the caption. So you definitely have some insights as to hashtag best practices. So I'd love
Yes.
to hear your thoughts on this.
Yes. It did go back and forth for a while. It used to be in, it was out. Now it doesn't matter. So I can say we've tried it both ways. It doesn't really matter. Hashtags. It does matter the hashtags that you use. And I do go in depth on that too in the course, just so and if anyone really wants to dive in. But best practices, a lot of people would put their business hashtag first, but it does matter the order. You want to
Oh,
know, where are you trying to show up? Like, what is most important for you? If you could only be found for one hashtag, what would it be? And my second advice would be, look up that hashtag, make sure you want to land on that hashtag, because if people are following it, there has been like the most random hashtag I've used that ended up being really spammy, and also a fetish. Like I mean, it was like, I can't even remember. There was something to do with, we were promoting some socks of something, and and they're like, oh, there's a foot fetish. Like, I didn't
oh,
know. I didn't know. I
yeah,
don't know I'm like, oh, okay, weird,
yeah,
totally normal. What? I don't get this, but so you just want to make sure you've done your due diligence. And
yeah,
I know a lot of platforms, even later, will say, hey, here's a suggestion. Just still click on it. Make sure you want to be there, because I have used a hashtag, and there was one for a while in our community everyone was using. We were all like getting spammed from it. So just make sure that, because like the last thing you want to do is get your website attracted for hacking for some reason.
yeah, for
Like,
sure, for
why
sure.
am I getting all these weird accounts? Like, this is one of the hashtags in here is not right.
Yeah.
But you can start to curate some of your baseline ones and then know where you want yours to fall in. I always put ours last. Ours hasn't been used that much. So, um, I mean, because we switched from my photography to marketing. So that swap, starting a new business, has been, taking everything we had. I don't need wedding photography or sports things in there. So
Hmm.
we just scraped it and went new. But finding your baseline ones are important, and it does matter. And if another business has a hashtag, you want to make sure that you're being mindful if you're doing an event together and using it. And please, if you're a business and want people to use your hashtag, put it in your profile.
Ah, yeah.
We would
What
hold events and someone would be like, "Oh, it's not that. It's like jump for joy." I'm like, "That is
oh,
not what your name is."
yeah. That's not your name.
Yeah.
So say a little more about that it matters the order. I've never heard that before.
So think about it as if, so the best way to think about hashtags on Instagram is to think of them like SEO for the web.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
basically what it is. So you're telling Instagram, if I want to show up, these are in this is my priority of showing up.
Wow. Got it. I've never kind of heard that before, but that it makes sense.
It's
It makes sense.
magical.
Yeah. So if someone's a brick and mortar place, what are some suggestions or ideas you have in terms of trying to like use some local hashtags? Because I know we did talk about we just did an episode on like website and using local terms on your website for
Oh yeah.
SEO. So how does
Yeah.
that, what are some tips that you have for people in terms of hashtag use for their local communities?
Okay, so local, I know this really well because one, I'm a big locals girl. Anyways, it's probably like the first thing I find out when I move someplace new is that I'll look on, like here, we're unincorporated, meaning we don't have a town. So we actually have a variety of like hands in the pot when it comes to our town. So I kind of just had to follow and see who is using what, and then also go to those hashtags and see which ones I wanted to show up on. Like which ones would what I'm talking about would I want my post to be? It would be like if someone looked at that hashtag, because people will follow hashtags. If
Yeah.
someone followed it and said, "Oh, you know," when you're like, "That one doesn't fit."
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to
When
make
you look in
sure,
the grid and you're like, yeah, that one
yeah.
doesn't fit. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure what we were posting about would fit, but I followed and was very intentional about looking around my community, especially sometimes I would go to other local businesses that I knew, like a ski shop, and be like, okay, what are they hashtagging? Because we're obviously similar language, what we're talking about. And then same thing, just kind of kept finding stores that I found locally that was really in alignment with me and then
Mhm.
what I was speaking about with our local community, then I would use those. I wouldn't like use a candy shop in a post that wasn't about a candy shop here in
Right.
town.
Right.
But finding your local for us, Evergreen, Colorado and downtown Evergreen. I mean, people follow Evergreen, Colorado from not Evergreen, Colorado. I met one
Right.
of my really good friends because she followed it, was going to move here a year and a half I think before COVID. And then she reached out and we just have a funny story because she's like, "You thought I was a bot," which you entered in the relationship cautiously. And I did. I'm like, "Who is this person?" But then she ended up moving here like a year and a half later. And she's like, "I found my hairdresser. I found the places to go. I knew all the
That's
people
great.
I needed to meet." Yeah. So that
Smart.
was simply from following because I post all the time about her because
Yeah.
I love it here.
Yeah. And so, okay, these are some things that I've heard again through the grapevine and looking at social media.
Yes.
Is there a preference? So you usually if you're going to pick a hashtag, like the hashtags will come up and a lot of times it'll say how many followers that hashtag has, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So I've heard varying degrees of like use the hashtag that has less followers than more followers unless you are like a huge establishment. Is that correct or incorrect or bogus information?
Correct.
Oh,
If
okay.
you look, I don't know if, and I'm speaking off the top of my head, but like when you're big, like REI, I don't know that they use a hashtag other than their own is hashtag opt outside, which they ran a massive campaign on, by the way, because it's not their hashtag REI. So if you're gonna do that, you can do it. Just you have to not say it once, but like 1,000 times. Like they
Mhm.
spent a lot of money, ad money behind that campaign.
Yeah.
But yes, it is true because
Okay.
think about being in a room of people
Mhm.
and you're one person, but thinking about being in a room with 100 people. versus a million people. Like,
Right.
how many people are you going to reach in that? And
Yep.
that's kind of how you should think about a hashtag.
Yeah,
For
and that's kind of the way that they explained it to me. So I'll give it
yeah.
like an example. Like you could say, like let's say stay fit is a hashtag, right? And that
Mhm.
has like 10
Yeah.
million followers, but stay fit 305, which is my zip code, has like 1 million followers. It's better for
Yes.
me to be in the stay fit 305 hashtag because that's small, that's a smaller base, and it also pertains local to me because in local, that's what we're trying to go for.
Yes.
Local, but it's great if you find me, but you're in Colorado, like you can't,
Yes.
maybe when you visit, so there's still benefit. You could be like, oh, I
Oh,
saw these people on social media, but they're
for
not going to be your
sure.
bread and butter. You cannot build your business on someone traveling from Colorado once a year to maybe stop by your studio. So,
Yes. The only difference is if you were had online courses that you wanted to go
right,
across, but like
correct.
locally. And I would say when I travel, I will always hashtag the town because I want to see the local shops, the local, like I love coffee shops are my jam to go find a sweet little coffee shop or something nearby that I think I should see because it's limited time. But
Yeah,
I will always look up the hashtag of the town first and
yeah.
foremost.
That's
Like what's
actually
there?
super interesting. When I travel, I'm gonna start doing that when I travel. Like
I
go
found
on
some of my favorite
yeah,
places.
yeah. I will say this, like when I started growing both our social media presence on for Pilates in the Grove and for Krista Gurka, I would do what you said. So I'd be like, there's this smoothie place next to us or vegan restaurant. And so I'd go on their channel. I'd see who's following them, who's commenting on their posts. Um, I would look at the hashtags they're using because
Yes,
most of the time the people that are commenting on their posts or following their posts are also local. Mostly are also going to be
yes,
local. They're already
yes,
in the community. They're going to be local to my community. So that is for the brick and mortar portion.
yes.
Now, when I did Krista Gurka, it's online, right? So I could reach everyone. So what I started doing was hashtag. So I would look at the hashtag for like female founder or hashtags for like Pilates studio. And I would go in and find businesses, and then I would start like commenting on their posts or saying, hey, I really love your studio. It's beautiful. And I would not, it was just starting to build a relationship. And then, I mean, so then this is my whole strategy. This is the way that it works. So then I'd be like, especially with Krista Gurka, the online portion, if I comment to them, then
Mhm.
they or like, oh, nice. So then they follow me, right? And
Yes,
then I start showing up in their like story feed because I'm commenting. It's like, if you ever noted, well, I'm telling this not to you, to the people that are
yes,
looking in your Instagram on your stories, it's always the people that are most in your
yes,
community first. So for me, I'm like, I just want to show up in like the beginning of that so that every time they open Instagram, I'm like, I'm there, even if they never look at my story. That's
yes,
the whole, it's just a touch point for Pilates in the Grove. Like, it's just like, I don't care if you never click on the story, but if you open up Instagram and one of the first five they see is always Pilates in the Grove, it's just one more touch point that's in their consciousness or
yes,
subconsciousness of like Pilates in the Grove, Pilates in the Grove, Pilates in the Grove. So that's been like
yes.
a very unscientific way
Well,
that I would grow my, digital marketing audience.
stories can grow in a big way. Like you can reach people, and I have people follow my stories, and sometimes on my personal Instagram, I won't post because it'll just be a minute, but something funny happened. And then people are like, I love following your stories. So it's just, it does help though. And also when you hold events too, if you can do stories, those can be fire. Like
Yeah.
we did, and if you can do it together, like say you're holding an event and then two of you are talking, we did that locally last year for an event, and we just got like we times X our audiences together.
That's
It was
amazing.
so good.
Yeah.
So just yeah, and I would say too, when back to your point of copying at what other people's hashtags are, I would say if like you don't have an idea, then just go click on other, like say you clicked on a hashtag and you're like, I love that post, click on it. see what
Yeah.
they've used, see what else they've used. But I'll tell people all the time, they're like, what hashtag should I use in my community? I'm like, mine. Like if you you should use them. I don't care if you do. Like it's our
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
Survivability, right? We should want everyone to thrive here. I'm holding
Right. No,
nothing. It's out
exactly.
there. I don't care if you copy and paste that.
Yeah. No, I think, and I think everything is like testing and retesting. Um, and consistency, I say this all the time, consistency beats intensity like
Yeah.
all the time. So being consistent, even if it's 3 times a week, is better than posting like
Oh,
10 days in a
100%.
row and then not posting again for 3 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what we just
Even
try to give
two. If
people.
you can only do
Yeah.
two, it's okay. Like if you just have, you're like, really, I can commit to two, make those two really valuable to people.
Yeah, exactly. And just, especially if you're like, oh, I really want to lean into social media, but because, like you said, people do go to your social page the same way
Yeah.
they go to a website. So I do believe people have to have a website. You don't have to have like a crazy
Yeah.
e-commerce site, but you have to have some website presence and you should have some social presence. It doesn't have to be on every platform, but that's where
No.
people are going to go. Like they will
Yeah.
go now and look at their social. Whenever I get a referral for someone, like the first thing I do is go to their social media.
Yeah.
But what I try to tell people that I think it helps is don't worry at the beginning about the results. Like you can look at the
Nope.
analytics, but what you're trying to do is create the habit. So your job is to post, like Mindy was saying, if it's twice a week, your job is to post twice a week. And so do that, commit to doing that for 30 days, 60 days. And then you can worry, then you've started to create that habit and you've recognized I'm not going to die. I did it. I posted, like say you're going to just post Tuesday, Thursday at 8 a.m. Like make it part of your calendar. Tuesday,
Yep.
Thursday, post your stuff. Um, I'm always like that's not the point. I don't care how many likes you got. I don't care how many comments you got. Your
Nope.
goal, your job is to just take the binary action of I'm going to post twice a week. And that's
And
it.
sometimes people can get a little hung up on like, what do I talk about? I don't know. You can listen, the first thing we go to is like the calendar. Okay, what holidays
National
are
Cookie
we gonna
Day,
post about? Yeah.
National
Like
Dog Walking Day.
what about
Every
like
day has national,
a
like 10
holiday?
national holidays.
Literally, yeah. So I say just go find, like, we found some of those, just funny ones, because why not? Like,
Yeah.
that is who we are. If you're not funny, then maybe you wouldn't want to do that. But just, it can kind of just start to build stuff in. And then you find that there's not as many holes as you think there are. Because if you went through your whole year, if you, like, we do a Google Calendar, we put in, okay, this holiday, this one, sales are happening, we know, or like countdown to summer, right?
Yep.
Beachbody, like what's our
Yep.
countdown to the first day of summer, something like that. But yeah, I think there you can always find content. It's just sometimes you just have to not stress about it. Just grab a calendar and look up funny holidays or
Yeah. I mean,
holidays
you
you
could
know
go
you're
on
gonna.
ChatGPT now and do it. Give
Oh
me
my
the,
goodness. Yeah.
give me 10 funny holidays in the month of March and it will spit out a bunch of things for you, right?
And sometimes I'll go on Google Trends. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are people looking up? Like
Yeah.
maybe it's kind of we don't really have something to fill, but I'm not for sure what. Well, Google Trends will tell you what people are searching, and maybe there's something there that just sparks an idea.
Yeah. And we recommend to a lot of people like Ask the Public. And so like you can
Yes,
go on Ask the Public
yes,
and it
that's
will just give you the questions
oh,
that people are asking. And
yeah.
so too, so if you're like, okay, I don't know what to do, I don't know. So pick 2 days or three
Mhm.
days, same day, same time, like same day, same time, and then use that kind of rubric. Like you could, so maybe on Tuesday. So it's very like we do Monday, we do a meme every Monday. So it's Monday meme. Every
Yes,
Tuesday, we do Tuesday tutorial. So it's like we just give a tip on
yep.
something. And then Thursday, we do therapy Thursday. And so we talk
I
about
love it.
physical therapy. Like we just make it easy. So there's no thinking. It's like if you were to,
Yep.
it's like what they talk about with meal prep. Like what's the hardest thing with eating healthy? People are like, well, I don't know what to make. Well, just make a calendar and be like, on Monday, I'm going to eat salmon and broccoli. On Wednesday, I'm going to eat that. And then you just take the thinking part out of it, right? You don't have to
100%.
make the decisions.
Yeah.
Then once you get used to it, then you can start looking at your analytics then when you get so good at that, you can hire people like Mindy and just be like, now I'm ready to outsource it because you know enough to follow the analytics and make sure the
Yeah.
people are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of courses that are actually really, really good. So why don't you tell people where they can go to look for the courses? I think the Instagram hashtag course is really good. And you also have some Google stuff. And I'm super excited to have Mindy's going to be working now with our inner circle, which is going to be really, really exciting to help people with their Google business pages and also, basically doing like full branding audits so we can make sure that everything is cohesive. So tell everyone
Yeah.
what courses you have and where they can go to find them.
Sure. So we have courses based on, I believe, website is first, always having a good solid website. But then two, Google Business Profile is your second best friend. And that's because it will link all of your social media that you have. And there's also a lot that Google did back when COVID hit that they really wanted to elevate small businesses. So they are stepping up their game and they have not faltered on this with helping small businesses be found, but they do know that there's some missing parts and some missing links that weren't quite getting connected. So they've really worked on giving small businesses a platform and one place to connect that so that they're found on the internet. We broke this up into three parts. We did an in-person course, and everyone that came, now, mind you, I gave everyone the heads up before they showed up. This is going to be intense. So drink water, don't eat any sugar. You're going to need all your brain power. And we gave seafood for lunch for like the extra brain power.
That's so
But they
funny.
said it was too much. So I did listen to them and we broke it up. So first you're going to learn your keywords, which is really important. The first one I recommend taking is SEO keywords. Gets bombarded a lot of like, what is SEO? SEO is many different things. And so we kind of explain the components of what that looks like, but then also what are yours and how do you find your SEO keywords? And also just to be a little bit knowledgeable, if someone's presenting, they can do SEO, you'll have some knowledge about what they're talking about. And then two is optimize your photos. That's something Google started doing post COVID or during COVID, where they really started to say, okay, we're going to give professional images a step up. And then you can add your keywords, and I go over how you do that. And then Google Business Profile is really tying it all in. You're doing your description with your keywords because you know what those are, and you're adding your photographs to that. So that can be found at 20 degrees or 20degreesmedia.com. I
Perfect. And we're going to
faltered because
link all of that.
we have shop, but we're actually transferring it, so it's gonna be 20 degrees media.
Yeah, we're gonna link all of that in the show notes. So if you're driving
Yes,
and you're like, wait, you can just when you're done driving, go.
yes,
We'll link everything up in the show notes so that you guys can check out the courses. Um, this was so great. I mean, I think this is something that we could talk about for hours and hours and
yes,
hours and hours and hours because there's just
truly.
and it's always changing too. It's like
Always
something that changes
changing.
really, really
Yes,
fast.
like Chrome just launched. The nice thing about Vegas with all, the tech stuff that comes out in January is that then all the tech gets released to the public like the following month. And so that's why I was like, we need YouTube channel just for free. Like what's happening? Because there are
Yeah.
some big swings happening and people just need to be aware. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. It's
excited
always
though. There's
changing.
some
It is
good
exciting.
coming. Yeah.
There are some great things coming down the pipeline. And I just think people, you know, listen, like Mindy said at the beginning, there are stages in your business, right? And if you only have the bandwidth to do one thing at a time, that is fine. In fact, there's so much research out there that says task switching and doing many things is actually not productive at all, that it's way better to focus on one thing. And so better
Yes.
to focus on one platform, one thing at a time, get that down, figure out what works, and then you can move into, something else. So you don't have to do everything all together. But I would definitely check out Mindy's website, 20degreesmedia.com, right?
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
then we'll link it in the show notes. You can follow her over on Instagram. And if you are members of the inner circle, she is going to be doing one of our calls. And oh, you might have actually do the call before this actually airs. So
Yeah.
he did a call for you guys last week. But that is super exciting. And hopefully we'll bring you back so you can share all
Yes.
the new information that's coming out.
Yes, yes. And I'll just give some encouragement that if you're doing one platform, use that platform for what you're hearing your customers say. I mean, that's how we started with Instagram, and then we kind of ghosted for a little bit because we realized that we needed to create the content that people were asking for that turned into in-person courses that now are online courses. So just know that evolution, people are telling you what they want. So just like give yourself grace because we didn't start with in-person Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and online workshop. That came as an evolution from the one platform we started with. So just breathe. You're gonna, anything you're doing is great movement forward.
Yeah, that's such a great ending comment. Well, Mindy, thank you so much for joining us. I hope to bring you back soon. And until next time, everyone, bye for
Thank
now.
you.